What is up, YouTube? Today we are going to be recreating the first stage of Contra using GameMaker Studio. And one great way to get started, you see all these graphical assets, we can really quick just take some screenshots of the stage, and then we can create a tile set for these graphical assets, and then we can simply copy and paste those into GameMaker Studio. Go ahead and just start out the game. Let me hit start here. And I'm not going to bother with 30 lives code. So you're going to go through the first stage. And what you're going to do, this is the Nestopia emulator. So to get a screenshot in Nestopia, you hit Alt-E. And then you're going to move a little bit further in the stage. Take out that guy. And that guy. Take another screenshot. And then you're going to go a little bit further and so forth. Just, repeat the process throughout the stage. Alt-E. Another screenshot, yada yada yada. I think you guys get the point. And then once you've basically accumulated enough screenshots, you're going to go into a painting program and load up your screenshots that you've acquired. And then you're going to create basically a long strip of each screenshot for the entire level. And the way that you line them up, let me show you something really neat here. You can do this in Photoshop, but there's another program that I prefer because it's a little bit more efficient called Graphic Scale. If you do a Google search for Graphic Scale, you can find a freeware edition. And basically, we're going to go into Graphic Scale. We're going to load up our screenshots. And this should be in your Nestopia directory or whatever emulator you're using. Just go in, check out what your preferences are for screenshot locations. Anyway, we load up our screenshots. And as you can see, you get a little preview here of each screenshot. And I've already gone through the stage and done this. And so you're going to load up each screenshot, and you're going to end up with something that looks basically like, see this long strip here. As we scroll from side to side here, you'll notice basically everything that we're going to need to recreate our tile set that we're going to use to recreate the stage. In Photoshop, you're going to want to turn on a grid at an 8x8 interval. The same thing with Graphic Scale. You click on this little icon here, hit 8x8, and then snap to grid, copy and paste, something like that. And then you'll create a new file. I'd say 256 by 240. 24-bit full color is fine. Anyway, you'll take a little strip of something here, turn on your grid again, snap to grid, paste, and so you'll just sort of build each piece that you're going to need. Let's get this grass piece here, copy, paste. You're going to go through and you're going to grab all the assets that you can. You'll hopefully end up with something kind of like this. We've got the palm trees in the background, palm trees over here that you find later in the stage, the taller ones toward the end of the level. We got the mountains in the background. We got the different frames for each water animation here. So you want to make sure that when you're taking screenshots, if there's something that's animating in the background, take at least, 2 or 4 screenshots depending on how many frames you're going to have to deal with. So in this case, it's only 2, fortunately. Now, what I did with this is I actually increased the size by a factor of 4. And so it's actually running at 32 by 32. And that's just because I figure we'll have an 8-bit tile set, and then we'll have a tile set based on just more updated graphics. I need to grab the bottom of that mountain because I know that I forgot to get it. So we'll grab that, and then that goes about here, basically. And as you can see, it's really small because it's pasting an 8x8 sized image into a 32 by 32, or an image that basically has a resolution of 1024 by 960 at the moment. And that went about there, and simply grab the bottom, expand it down, and there you go. It's increased by a factor of 4. So we'll zoom out, we'll go ahead and save that. And now we'll go into GameMaker Studio. Okay, so load up GameMaker Studio, make a new project, and call it Contra Remake or whatever. And we're going to go into our resource tree, and we're going to create a new sprite. And we're going to call this one SPR Jungle. And we're going to import an image. This is going to be our jungle tiles image that we just created. And I would recommend saving all this in a directory that you know where it is so you can quickly get to it. As you can see, it's all there. The bottom of the mountain that we added looks good. So we'll go ahead and close that. And we'll create a new sprite. And we will call this one SPR Palm. We've got some palm tree assets that we're going to have to deal with later, which I'll explain more about when we get to that point. So we're going to load the same sprite, edit the image, And we're going to go up to View, and then Toggle Grid. You can also press G, and then over on File, Preferences, Image Editor, Grid Settings, and we're going to switch this to 32 by 32 because we have increased our image by a factor of 4. And Snap to Grid. That'll make it a little easier. Oh, line color. Okay, let's change that to something that's a little easier to see. How about light blue like we had in graphic scale? Okay. Toggle Grid. Gosh, that's a lot brighter in this program than it was in graphic scale. Let's turn the color down just a little bit on that. Grid settings. Let's do... How about maybe that color? That'll work. There it goes. Okay, yeah, that's better. Okay, so now we need to basically crop out everything but these palm trees here. So we're going to hit our rectangular tool and hold down Shift. If you need to move an image or anything in GameMaker, hold down your Shift key, hold down your left mouse button, and you can sort of move around. Control and scroll wheel will scroll in and out. So the controls are similar to Photoshop and Microsoft Word. Go into the upper left or upper right corner, left click, hold, go down, select that. Just get that whole thing in there. Then image, we are going to crop all frames to selection. And there we go. So we just have our palm trees. So we are going to close this. So now we're going to create a couple of new tile sets here. Oh, one other thing I almost forgot. We need to import our background. So we're going to call this SPR, just background for now. Import this. And one thing that I would recommend when doing this, make this background asset slightly transparent. So we'll edit the image. And then to make an entire layer transparent, simply go down to your layers field here, right click on the particular layer that you want, edit layer properties, and then opacity, turn it to like maybe 50%. There are also different blending options. If you have multiple layers, you can get some really interesting effects. Photoshop obviously has many, many more of these than GameMaker Studio does, but for now, just make it kind of clear, kind of see through a little bit, so that when we start importing stuff in the background, we'll know that we've placed a tile in the correct spot because it will be opaque as opposed to transparent. Okay, so close out of that. Now our tile sets. We're going to create a couple of new tile sets. We're going to have a jungle and palm tile set. And it's important we have two different ones, and I'll explain. So we go to our jungle tile set. We grab our jungle. We're going to have to do a few things here. So we have a tile animation. Now it's important to note that the size of the frame that animates is limited or contingent upon the size of the tile that you originally set up. So if we go up to our main tile set here, we see that we have a tile width of 32 and a tile height of 32. And that's going to determine everything that applies to this tile set. We're going to add an animation, and you have to set the number of frames. So we go ahead and just continue adding animations for the amount of background assets that you have. Now it's important to note that these have to be an even number of frames. And you can actually see these animate by clicking the little play button here, just so that you know that it's working. So we'll do another one. Okay, so now that we've got a series of animations here, we should probably name them. And to quickly name, you select what you want and hit F2. But I don't think that we'll spend the time naming all of them just yet. So next we're going to move up to our brush builder. This is the thing that's going to make it so that we can import our animations quickly rather than very cumbersomely importing them. And we're going to grab our first animation, so click it and then just basically move it in here. and then the second one, and the third one. And this is going to be based on that screenshot that I initially showed you. As you can see, this first stage screenshot, you've got a left cliff flotsam here, you've got a cliff that's coming out toward you, you've got a smaller looking one here, you've got an inlet, another inlet, and just take mental notes. Are these going to look different? Are they just going to be repeated graphics? Maybe just want to write that down or something, just be apprised of what the needs of the graphics are going to be. In GameMaker Studio, as we can see, we've got our left side here, but we also had a right side. To do that, click on the first animation again, and then up here, hit mirror, and that'll give you a mirror image of it. It's important to leave space between each of these animations, otherwise GameMaker Studio will grab, it'll basically, if it's right next to it, it thinks it's part of the same brush. So let's delete that and just move it a little bit further away. Now to import that as a test, let's go ahead and create a room. So to create a room, we'll go over here to our resource tree, right-click Rooms, hit Create Room, and let's rename it really quick. We'll just call it RM Stage 1, and we'll double-click on it, and we go into our room editor. And incidentally, just a really quick note, if you accidentally close your room editor, it's really hard to open it again in GameMaker Studio. You can either go up to Reset Layout under Layouts, or you can double-click where it says Room, and then go up here to your ribbon where it says Room, and then open Layer, open Room Properties, open Layer Properties, and open Instance Creation Order. That basically gets you back to where you were. Let me just move my camera here, so I'm not in the way of the resource tree. Okay, so it gives us basically a default background and a default instances layer. So these are the different layers that we're going to be placing into the room. The background is obviously the backgrounds. There's the option of adding a tile layer, a path, which we won't really get into with Contra, a new asset layer, and then there's a folder where you can have nested rooms. It's a little more fancy. We won't really get into that in this project. So for now, let's go to our default background. Now there's a few things we need to set up here. Down here on Properties, we want this room to basically be 4 times the size as it is in the NES version. So it's obviously 960 tall, but it's quite a bit wider. In graphic scale, our screenshot was 3328 wide. So we need to multiply that by a factor of 4, which gives us 13,312. So 13,312 pixels. So now our room is nice and wide. We get this long black strip here. And let's go ahead and make it green so we know that that's our furthest background. Nothing should be there. And we'll add a new background on top of it. And this is the one that we'll put our background strip on. And as you can see, it's still transparent. And so that's going to make it really easy to tell when we've, placed something over it. And we'll go ahead and hit stretch. And that'll stretch the image out to basically fit the entirety of the room. Let's go back into our room editor here. And we're going to now place a tile layer above the background that we have stretched. And our tile set's going to be the jungle. And we're going to quickly go down to our brush library here and scroll to where your water animations are. And again, you can hold down Shift and move this to where you need it. Now, as you can see, if I click on one of these, it selects the whole thing. That's why I was saying you need to leave some space, otherwise it'll just think it's associated with it. And this, once you have that selected, we can go in here and just sort of place it where it needs to be. And, it's not transparent anymore, so we know that it's in the right spot. You can sort of click and hold and just sort of paint it like a basic painting program or something. Okay, it looks like there's a few animations that we need, so we go into our libraries here. As you can see, this can be kind of cumbersome. I mean, this is how you could do it one by one, is going into your libraries and sort of just setting it up that way, but So anyway, I think you guys kind of get the idea. And if you want to delete anything, just right-click on it, and it'll just remove it. Okay, we need a smaller section here. So now we've got that and that. Whoop. And then this. And then this is going to be our that one's going to be the edge. This one. And to animate this, go ahead and just click that arrow button. You can see everything's kind of animating the way it's supposed to. Hopefully they're synced up, but whatever. Okay, so that looks like all the water animations. You know, I just realized that my camera's in the way. There we go. It'll just turn me off. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put in our cliff face here. Now don't worry about this. This is an object that we can just add later. It's not really a background asset. So we'll go ahead and just deal with that in a later video. Okay, now we'll put in our little platforms here. We'll put the boss in a tile layer that's actually one above this one. So we'll use the same sprite assets, but we'll only put that one, you know, where it needs to be so it can be above. In fact, we could just do that right now. So we'll say tiles 2, we'll use the same tile set, and we'll go ahead and grab our boss. Looks like the same spot. And then this. And we'll sort of just construct Now, in the olden days, they had to do this on graph paper. Okay, did I miss anything? Looks correct. Okay, so back to our other tile layer. Okay, so now we'll do the bottom section here of these stone surfaces. Okay, and now for the palm trees. Now to select multiple parts of an object, of a tile, you hold down Control, so it's similar to like selecting individual things in other Windows applications. Okay, and now we're going to start putting in the the animated palm trees here. Okay, now we'll introduce a new tile layer, and this will be our palm. Okay, and then we're going to use our animations on this. Our offset needs to be 64. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we'll save our progress, and now what we need to do is add the blue for the water and the black for the sky. Oh wait, looks like we got some stars, and it looks like those stars are actually animated. We need to edit the sprite. Edit image. Okay, so we'll put our white star, I guess, right here. And then we will create a new animation. Okay, so we'll put in our interesting. Okay, now we will create a new tile layer. Just sky and water. Okay. And this is going to be the jungle tile set again. And we're going to use our blue. Is it 12? Yeah, it's 12 tall. And we're just going to draw our water in. Okay. And then we're going to take our black. Grab that black. Whoop. That's starting to look like the Contra level. Okay. I'd say that works. Alright, let's check it out. Okay, so this is the level that you're seeing. You can see the stars are animated, the water's animated. Everything basically looks correct. I just have this little square here that I can move back and forth. Cool. Okay, those are going to have to get fixed, but for now, they work. And we could probably fill in the top of that screen. I don't know. I'll think about it. And I just noticed something. These platforms don't have the correct tiles below them, and so they don't have the shading correct. I know how to fix that, that's not a problem. Cool. Alright, so we'll close that. Took me a little while to figure this out, but, you know, I think it's a more efficient way of doing it than just taking a bunch of screenshots and using those. This is much more efficient in terms of file size. So anyway, I'll try to program the player object or maybe an enemy object next. Until then, you guys have a good day.